Well, hello there, you're watching the press preview. A first look then at what is on the front pages. So in the next half hour or so, we will see what's making the headlines with the columnist, Carole Malone, and the political editor of the Liverpool Echo, Liam Thorp. Lovely to see both of you. Lots to discuss as well today. So let's crack on and take a look at the front pages. The Times, first of all, says the race is on to stop the spread of the Indian COVID variant. As part of those efforts, the Daily Mirror says there will be a jabs blitz in variant-hit areas in a bid to save the summer. The Financial Times leads with former Prime Minister David Cameron's appearance before two parliamentary committees during which he denied any wrongdoing in his lobbying activities on behalf of the collapsed firm Greensill Capital. The Metro picking up on the revelation that Mr Cameron used his boss Lex Greensill's private plane to fly to his second home in Cornwall, their headline, Sleazy Jet. The former Prime Minister's reputation is in tatters, says The Guardian, with a second story on a revolt against immigration authorities. The Telegraph has a story on the aftermath of the pandemic, saying patients will be able to see their GP face-to-face after an official climb-down. The Sun says Prince Harry has attacked his father for passing his pain on and that he won't do the same. While the Daily Mail condemns the Prince for appearing to criticise the parenting techniques of Prince Charles and the Queen. So lots to discuss. As I said, Carole Malone and Liam Thorp are here. Liam, let's go to the Daily Mirror first of all, shall we? Jabs blitz to save summer. Just in the last half hour, new measures announced by the government. What is the plan to hit this variant then?
Obviously, this is a deep concern, regarding the spread of the Indian variant. And actually, we've got some local issues in Merseyside. The area of Formby and Sefton has seen really rapid rise in cases after the Indian variant was identified here. And obviously Bolton is a big issue. And we're hearing now tonight that there's going to be a rapid response team sent to Bolton. In Formby and in Sefton, we've got surge testing taking place. But the government is coming under more and more pressure now to do the thing that it has done best in this process. The government has made a lot of mistakes, but vaccines has been where the success has been. So there is growing pressure for the government now to roll out some surge vaccine, if you like, and speed up those second doses to people who need them the most, and really start to vaccinate younger people in the areas where we're seeing the rapid rise of this Indian variant. I think when we looked at the different variants that we've had, we haven't quite had one that has been as much of a concern as the Indian variant, and it is the one that is really going to cause a potential problem in terms of reopening the country.
Yes, and Liam, just to clarify then, earlier we heard from Blackburn with Darwin suggesting that some down to 18-year-olds could get the jab, and also in other places the idea that second vaccines will be brought forward too to try and give maximum immunity, if you like. Is that what you're hearing?
Yeah, that's the thing, because obviously we know that vaccines protect people, but from what we're seeing from the evidence as well, they also are good at stopping transmission. So we're now seeing the likelihood in those areas, places like Blackburn and Bolton, that we will see that kind of surge vaccine. And I think that the government will be looking at potentially rolling that out to other areas as well, such as, Formby in Merseyside, because vaccines are the way out of this. And vaccines are hopefully, as far as we know at this point, are still capable of dealing with the Indian strain.
And I suppose, Carole, the main point about this is tackling the other variants of concern. The South African variant, the Brazil variant, happened in lockdown. The timing of this, as the Times says, couldn't be worse, with the opening of hospitality proper come Monday.
Well, you say that, but there is still no evidence that any of these variants cause much more serious illness. So, I think, one, we haven't got a plan. Yes, cases are doubling, but that has not been reflected in deaths. The question is, will the vaccines that we've had deal with the variants? And when I say deal with, I mean, will they stop them from killing people? And if the answer is yes to that, well, we're going to have to deal with it. We've got to stop talking about COVID infections like every infection equals a death, because it doesn't anymore, and it never did, but it certainly doesn't now. And I think all talk of lockdown, I don't think people are going to weather or wear another lockdown. I mean, you just look at social media today. People are saying, we're not doing it again. Boris is saying he's anxious because Sage, the scientists are saying they're anxious. But the thing is, they're always anxious, the scientists. That's their job. It's Boris's job to decide the best thing to do for the country. And what they're doing in the north, in Blackburn and Bolton, and by increasing the vaccine program and speeding it up, is a great thing to do. But if we know that the vaccines stop this virus from killing us, then surely we've got to treat it like any other virus, like a flu virus. Yeah, we might be ill for a few days, but if it doesn't kill us, let's get on with our life. Let's open up the country again. There have been predictions from the Bank of England that our economy is going to go into overdrive. We can't stop that now. We mustn't stop that now.
Well, obviously, still many age ranges have not been vaccinated, and I suppose the fear comes from seeing the burning pyres in India, the bodies washing down the Ganges, being caught by nets now.
But the vaccine hasn't been given on the same kind of level as it has here. In this country, 82% of the clinically vulnerable have been vaccinated. 90% of all NH staff have been vaccinated. Now we're making plans to vaccinate the over 18s. That's as much as we can do, really.
But the Indian doctors are reporting that younger and younger people's, I know they've got oxygen shortages there, younger and younger people are being affected. So you do want to protect all members of society, even here in the UK.
There are some concerns. There are some concerns in India. It's still being looked at that people who have been vaccinated are still getting ill with the Indian strain. I think the problem is, I sort of agree with Carole on one point and disagree on the other. One is we still can't really compare this to the flu because we don't know anywhere near enough about it, and these are new strains, so we need to be ultra cautious. But what I would say is, I saw Andy Burnham saying today, talk of regional lockdowns, it just didn't work. And we know really well in Liverpool, for example, when we were put into tier 2 and other places were in higher tiers, people just went between the two, and it wasn't properly policed. It didn't have any impact. Actually, it made things worse here because people kind of came here from higher tiers. So the talk of regional lockdowns is difficult. I think most people would agree ramping up vaccinations to all people of all ages in those difficult areas that are experiencing problems has got to be the way forward.
Well,
I think
Go on, Carole.
I was just going to say, I think where questions have to be asked us, we knew this India variant was here. There are 3 strains in this country, the latest one being the most dangerous, we think. But, we've got to ask why. Yet again, the government only put India on the red list on April the 23rd. We saw what was happening in February. This first came here in February. We knew what was happening in India in February. Why didn't we stop travel to and from India? We've made the same mistake this time as we made at the start of the last lockdown. We've allowed free travel to and from a country where this virus is raging. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, well, we know that Boris Johnson cancelled a trip to India and the decision was taken very soon afterwards. We've got the G7 coming. How many of those nations will go on the green list just before those G7 leaders come? There are political decisions being taken here, aren't there, Liam, which we need to look out for?
There are political decisions being taken, but I totally agree with Carole. And somebody described the government's handling of COVID as watching like a very slow car crash, because we just see the same things happening again. They seem to be kind of trying to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or whichever way around. I mean that because every time that you think things are starting to go the right way, they act too slowly. And we saw what was happening in India. There were repeated calls for them to make that decision. Personally, from my perspective, things have been going quite well in this country. I think most people would be happy to stop most international travel and think, look, let's just try and enjoy a summer here in this country. But the government seems to kind of want to do everything at once, and it's not going to work, because when these variants are still in operation in other countries, it's too dangerous. But it's another mistake from the government as far as I'm concerned.
Well, as we heard this week, 1/3 of new mothers in this country were actually born themselves abroad. They'll want to visit family members. That's part of the reason people want to travel. There's lots to consider. Let's leave that for now. See what else comes out of the idea of surge testing and the extra measures that has just been announced by the government. But move to the FT. David Cameron suggesting, what does a young Prime Minister do if he wants to get stuck in to help a company? And he was doing it for the greater good during the pandemic. How do you think he performed, Carole?
Well, David Cameron described today as a very painful day for him. And it might have been painful for him. It was excruciating to watch and to listen to him today. I mean, he was savage by that committee, that Treasury Committee, quite rightly. He was accused of demeaning himself. He was accused of WhatsApping his way around Whitehall on the back of a fraudulent enterprise. A lady called Siobhan McDonough, who's Labour, she also accused him of painting Lex Greensill as the reincarnation of the late Mother Teresa. She also called on him to admit that his lobbying for the NHS wasn't for the health of the NHS, but was for the health of Greensill's balance sheets. So yes, he's taking a drubbing, quite rightly, but you know, the legacy of Greensill won't be about Cameron and his opportunism or his greed or whatever you want to call it, but it will be the damage this company has wreaked around the world. And questions have to be asked here at this inquiry. It's not just about savaging Cameron. We have to ask why Greensill was allowed to make loans of tens of billions of pounds in full view of the UK regulator, of the Bank of England, of the FCA, and no one blew the whistle on this. No one did a damn thing to stop it. You know, people and businesses were losing money all around the world, and the company in which, the country in which this company was based, the UK, didn't do a damn thing to stop it. So yes, while it might be sport for the left to have a go at Cameron, it also has to be to find out why Greensill wasn't stopped before.
Yeah, sorry to rush you. Just want to very quickly get to the Metro, Sleazy Jet, this idea that he hopped on private planes, asked the question, you know, who did you tell about this in terms of tax? Just very quickly on the sort of detail of it then, Liam.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Carole. It was cringeworthy stuff, and you know what the Metho's picked up on. He couldn't remember how many times he had hopped on Lex Greensill's jet to get back to his £3 million home in Cornwall. There was some remarkable quotes from Cameron today. There was one where he said a heart-wrenching moment where he said that there should just be more guidance for former prime ministers who don't just want to be on the board of some big bank or make the odd speech around the world. And I think that really, you know, is going to get to the heart of the matter. You know, the tiny violins are going to be out for those poor former prime ministers who don't just want some job on a big bank. It was a cringeworthy performance. It was excruciating. I thought Angela Eagle summed up the lobbying well when she said it was more like stalking than lobbying. And I thought it was particularly amusing when David Cameron had to explain why he signed off all his texts with "Love DC." He said that his kids said that he shouldn't be signing off text at all, and I tend to agree.
Yeah, well, he said lessons learnt, email and writing in future for former Prime Minister, had some defence of some of the points you made as well, but plenty more on that, no doubt, at 11:30. More to come tonight, though. Prince Harry appears to criticise his father and grandmother's parenting styles. Discussing that after this break. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Carole Malone and Liam Thorp. Welcome back to both of you. Prince Harry making the front pages again. Carole, do explain.
The Mail's headline is "How low can he go?" And actually, it's a question that we are now all asking ourselves. He's just done an interview with something called The Armchair Expert. It's a podcast, and it's some kind of LA celebrity called Dax Shepard. And in it, he is slating the parenting skills of the Queen and Prince Philip just weeks after he was there burying his grandfather. He's talking about breaking the genetic link. He said he moved to LA to break the genetic link because he's saying that his father treated him the way he was treated. So, you know, he's having a go at the Queen and Prince Philip while the Queen is mourning her husband. She buried her husband just a few weeks ago, and he's still giving these interviews. He's now making a career. He's earning a living out of trashing his family. And it's a terrible sight. You know, he said he doesn't want his kids to grow up with the same kind of parenting as he had. What kind of example are his kids going to have when he's forever dumping on his family and criticising them all? It makes him look far worse, I think, than they are. He really needs to stop this now and find another way of earning money other than dumping on his family. You know, to be talking about the parenting skills of the Queen at this moment in time is actually about as low as you can go. And someone Sorry, you've gone out of time. I know.
No, that's quite right. I know, Liam, you wanted to talk about the front page of The Guardian as well, which is Netanyahu suggesting that riots in Israel are a bigger threat now than Gaza. But we know that there are multiple Israeli airstrikes currently in the northern Gaza Strip. The Gaza Ministry of Health now says 109 people have been killed. That's including 28 children. Perhaps we can talk about that next hour when we see you at 11:30. Liam, Carole, thank you.